once again.
Hi guys, sorry we're a little late getting on. Some technical difficulties over here. Let me log into our Facebook. Thank you for joining Royal Parrots Live. I have Sky with me today. Let's see. I had some really great feedback and some great questions that I received to discuss today. I want to remind everyone this is an all parrot question and answer hour. Dennis and I have combined, we have more than 20 years experience breeding, raising exotic parrots. I had a storefront in South Elgin, Illinois for many years. We're transferring the storefront here to Lake County until COVID happened, and things took a little turn, but I don't think it was for the worst. I think it was an interesting turn. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to check my volume. All right. Hi, Gina. Hi, babe. Hi, Danish. Thank you for joining us today. Let me see if I can bring up the questions here. Hi, Bobby. Thank you for joining us today. You know, I try to do the background because we haven't remodeled this room yet, and the background's not working. Not sure why. Hold on. Just give me a few minutes, guys. Let's see. Let me go in here. I was telling Dennis I wonder if the YouTube Live is like a little easier to navigate, even though Facebook really isn't hard to navigate, but let's see, there I am. But oops, sorry for the feedback, guys. Okay. So I'm getting my Facebook up in here. I'm also going to put my email up and my messenger up. You're more than welcome. I have customers on Facebook who are following me. You have my email. You actually, you go through YouTube as well. Feel free to send any questions right now. Any questions are welcome. Any questions I don't know how to answer, I will look up for you and I'll try to answer. All right. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Robert. Thank you for joining us. All right, guys. Sky, say hi. Say hi. All right, let me try to change my background one more time. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see. I'm good, Anthony. Thank you. I hope you and your family are doing good too. Espero que tú y tu familia estén bien igualmente. Babe, I'm sorry. I don't think I can change this background. I can change my skin color, but I can't change the background here. Hold on. Oh, no, that's funky. Oh, that's diabolic right there. Hold on. Let's see. All right. Sky is like, what's going on? Oops. All right. All right, guys, I'm just gonna go back to the normal one. Let's see. Okay. All right. Oh, that hurt my eyes. I was right on the light there. All right, so let's go to our first question. I'm gonna go on my face, on my messenger and look up my first question. Again, feel free to put write in your questions on our chat box here, and I will try to get to all of the questions as fast or as thoroughly as I can. So I had a customer write me right away after our last Facebook Live. Let me bring it up here. And I actually want to read exactly what they said. They said, Juliet, thank you for starting a question and answer Facebook Live. You're welcome. This message was from Siraj. And actually, he bought a parrot from me. He bought a Quaker from me about 6 years ago. And he said, Juliet, he said, the Quaker and I have bonded very well. Thank you for my great baby. I recently got an Amazon parrot and they hate each other. He said, the Amazon does well with me when I'm alone, but every time I walk into the living room where my Quaker's cage is at, the Amazon starts nipping at my cheek and at my neck. Being an Amazon, I can't have him nipping at my cheek and at my neck. No, you can't. So he said, why is this behavior happening and what can I do? So the first thing that is happening, Siraj, is that I don't see you on our Facebook Live right now, but you didn't tell me when you got your Amazon. Based on the message, it sounds like you got your Amazon not too long ago. I'm going to assume within the last several months. It sounds like there is a struggle, like an alpha struggle there. You've had your Quaker for about 6 years. Your Quaker has established his home with you, and now there is there's competition. You brought competition into the house. And not only does your Quaker have competition, and I actually spoke with you over the chat, so I'm going to include the information that you gave me over the chat as well. But his Quaker is having behaviors as well. His Quaker is now screaming. We all know Quakers can be really loud. And now the Quaker sometimes refuses to come out of the cage, when before the Quaker used to just step up when he would put his hand in, when Siraj used to put his hand into the cage. So now you have competition for your Quaker. Your Quaker feels threatened, and that's a very normal thing with all animals. Once a pet has established his home, once you bring any other animal, it does not even have to be the same type of animal. You can bring a dog or a cat. That's Sky kissing me. You can bring a dog or a cat into the home, and the bird can still feel threatened. What should have happened, and I'm not saying that Siraj didn't do it, but it's normally not done, is sometimes people think that you can just bring another bird into the home and then the animals will get used to each other and then magic will happen and everyone's best friends. That's not really what happens. A lot of times what I recommend is that you actually position and you actually plan to put the cages near each other, even if it's for 1 or 2 months, so that the birds can acclimate to each other. A lot of times what I've noticed is that and this is a fairly common situation where Siraj is married. One person one partner will have their bird, and then the other partner will buy a new bird years and years later, and then they'll actually have them in separate spots depending on where the partner wants that bird. Sometimes one person has their own bird room, and then the other person has their pet in the living room. You never want to do that when you have several animals and you bring a new animal into the house. You want to put them near each other in the same room, in separate cages, always in separate cages. Some people might say, okay, that's obvious, keep them in separate cages. Come on, step up. Come on, step up. Sorry guys, Sky thinks that she can beak at my cheek, and she cannot. You cannot. Keep them in separate cages and let them hear each other. It's just like a human. The more they hear each other, the more they can see each other, but be behind bars, the better. After about a month or two, they'll realize that they have no control in regard to attacking the other bird, or they have no control in taking over the other bird, because you're not allowing them to be together. And you're not allowing them to be together because they will, most of the time, 90% of the time, they will attack each other because they need to establish alpha. But if you keep them separated in their cages, they can hear each other. They'll realize that they do not have the control to attack each other, and then they'll get used to each other's chirps, and it won't be such of a struggle in regard to them fighting. So eventually, when you do take them out, though, it is very natural for a parrot to establish alpha, omega within themselves, and they start beaking at each other. For instance, this is my fake parrot, and I'm coming at Sky. When that happens, you as their person, you as their mom or dad, feathered mom or dad, you need to become alpha in that moment, and you need to stop them from fighting. And when you establish yourself as alpha and you don't just stand back and watch them in horror, then they realize there's no room for fighting, because mama's there and mama's going to stop them from fighting. And eventually they get used to each other. Eventually they get used to, parrots are really smart. Eventually they get used to you butting into their fights. It's seen as more of a negative consequence when you come in and separate them from their fights. And parrots are extremely smart. They don't like the negative consequences. They will stop. I know that was a very lengthy answer. Hopefully that helps, Siraj. Another thing too, I just want to mention, Siraj said that when he has his Amazon on him and he walks into the living room, the Amazon pecks at his cheek. Funny enough, that's exactly what Sky was doing while I was talking, whether it because it's late for Sky and she might be grouchy, or whatever the reason Sky's doing it. Maybe she doesn't like me talking to you guys and she wants attention, which is, I think she's doing that as well. You never want a bird pecking at your cheek. It's not cute. You don't just say, oh, it's not hard, so I'm gonna forget about it. You know, my bird won't break skin. Trust me, guys, if your bird has a beak, I don't care how tame they are, they definitely have the potential of breaking skin. So if a bird ever shows signs that they're coming at your cheek or at your neck, just as I did, you immediately take them off. You bring them down. Come on. That, as you can see, that's me taking control of Sky. And me not being afraid of her screams, that's another conversation for another day. But anyway, I took her down, and now I'm holding her on my hand, and I'm actually gripping her thumbs. I am not allowing her to come back up. So you always want to take control of your parrot. You do not want them pecking at your cheek. You do not want them pecking at your neck. That's a no-go. Because again, if it has a beak, if your bird is having a bad day, they can definitely break skin. and they can definitely do damage. Never, ever, ever, ever think your bird is too tame to do damage, because most of the time than not, they will prove you wrong and they will do damage. Let's see. I'm sorry for that lengthy response, Siraj, but thank you for the question. Those questions are actually fairly common. Oh, yes. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, babe. Please share. I just want to make sure that the video is live. Or not live. I want to make sure that the video is public. Yes, it is public. So if you share, this should be able to be seen by everyone. Let's see. Okay. So I have another question here from Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for joining. And actually, Sarah sent me a message in my last live. And Gina, this is actually a message that's very similar to the questions that you ask. So I have customers who call me who get very hesitant with blood feathers. Sarah wants to know when she should worry when she sees her bird feathers bleeding a little bit. Should she worry? Should she take her parrot to the vet, or does she let it go? What are the signs to look for to know that the bleeding of a feather is an emergency, or it is something that can be handled at home? So this is the main thing that I tell customers. If a feather breaks and the pin of the feather, which means the beginning of this feather. So every feather, let me explain this better. Every feather begins growing at the skin, at the base of the parrot. So underneath all these feathers are growing out of the skin. So think of a baby teething. When a new feather begins growing and starts coming out, the pin, which is like a waxy pin needle, and it's just like what they used to write with a long time ago, when they used to dip the pen needle in ink. So that pin is pointy because it breaks through the parrot's skin. And that's how a feather starts. I'm going to bring Sky closer to the video so you can see. So you can see Sky. She bit my phone. Come on, baby, you're fine. There you go, perfect. You can see Sky pinning right now. So those are new feathers coming out of her. And you can see right there the little point, the little waxy point. Those are pins growing out of her skin, and they actually have to break through her skin to start growing this new feather. Then eventually it gets longer and longer and longer until it gets to the point where it's as long as it can get, whether it be a wing feather, which grows long, obviously, or a head feather, which grows short. So if the feather breaks at a longer point, usually it's fine. You don't have to worry about it. That happens all the time, even in the wild. The birds will be flying around, flying from tree to tree. They hit a branch. The wind is too strong. And eventually these feathers do crack and break, but it's okay because the feather will grow back. A new feather will grow back. It's as if, like when I lose my hair, when I try to do my fancy hairstyles and I lose some hair, it's okay because my hair will grow back eventually. I got new hair growing in. Hopefully that lasts. Hopefully my hair will always grow back, right? So it's the same for a parrot. Their feathers, when they're flapping in their cage, when they're doing things, sometimes they break. Sometimes Sky will flap her wing and the tip of this feather will actually crack. So I get calls and it's so normal, guys. Please don't be embarrassed. I tell all of my customers it's what I'm here for. Call me anytime, message me anytime. It's not an embarrassing question. It's a normal question that I get all the time. So I get these calls and I have customers say, oh my goodness, my bird just broke its feather. Should I worry? No. If the bird literally just cracked his feather and a piece of feather fell off, there's no bleeding, there's no, your bird's not screaming, your bird is actually just relaxing, eating his seed, doing his normal thing, you are fine. Sometimes the feather will crack at a higher point. Sometimes the feather will have a little bit of blood. That is only because the feather breaks in the pin where it holds a little bit of blood. Every pin holds, and I'll actually have to look this up again, but if I remember correctly, it holds about 5 or 6 drops of blood, and that is completely normal. Eventually the feather will get old enough to where the blood dries up and there will no longer be blood in the pin feather. But if you have a fairly newer feather, usually there's about 5 or 6 drops of blood in the feather. So sometimes a bird is flapping in the cage and he slaps his wing on one of the bars, and I get the call from a customer at midnight saying there's blood on my parrot's feathers. Do I have to worry? Usually those drops of blood will subside in about 10 minutes. If it is just those 5 or 6 drops of blood that were at the end of the pin feather, then they will actually stop bleeding. Okay. Yeah, sorry guys. Dennis just told me that I should read my texts and my comments. I will try to get to the comments. I'm so sorry. I'll try to get to everyone as much as I can. Yeah, Bobby is saying, what if it bleeds? So yeah, I was just answering that right now. So again, guys, I'm so sorry. I am trying to get to all of the questions. And again, thank you for joining us. Hold on, Sky just pooped on me and I don't have a napkin. Oh well, I'll have to get it in here. I just found a mask on my desk here. I think we all know that struggle where a bird poops on us and we're like, what's the first thing I can grab? Huh, a mask on my desk. That's what I have. So again, so Bobby's saying, so that's what I was asking. Bobby was asking, what if the feather bleeds? If the bleeding subsides within 10 minutes, you're good. When you need to worry is, and you can actually look at it, especially if you have a parrot who loves you, who you can touch and touch the wings and legs. When you should worry is when that pin actually breaks at the skin on the parrot. So that is more, I want to show you again. Step up. So sometimes a bird will have a major crash landing and you can see all the pins coming out of Sky's skin. If that pin feather breaks at where it meets in her actual body, and you can see the skin of the parrot bleeding because the skin on her body opens up, or his body opens up, that's where you need to worry. When the break is on the skin, the parrot's actual skin underneath the feathers, that's when you need to worry. That's not going to recover. That is an actual wound on the parrot's body. The bleeding, 85% of the time, is not going to stop. And many times when an injury is that severe that there's a break and bleeding on the body, the parrot needs stitches. The parrot needs the vet to stop the bleeding right away. That's when you need to worry. So when customers call me and say, my bird has bloody feathers, that's my first question. Where's the blood coming from? Is it coming from a simple break from the middle of a feather, like right here? If you see I'm bending this feather right here, let's say it breaks and the blood's coming from right here. That's usually not an emergency. That's perfectly fine. That's normal. But if the break is right at the skin and you can see the skin's broken open like a cut, like if someone stabbed you, that's when I'd say we need to stop the bleeding. Whether you try to put quick stop or you apply pressure, and I know that's hard with the parrot because they're going to start biting you. But that's when you need, most of the time you need vet help, because most of the time the parrot will need a suture. I hope that helps. Let's see. So I know Dennis said to look at the comments, but I'm not sure if my comments are lagging, because in my live comments right now, hi Terry, how are you? On my live comments, I just see Bobby's comment right now. Thank you everyone for joining too. And again, I totally fell asleep right before I came on live, and so I'm looking tired again. Hopefully by next event, I will have my makeup on point here. You're welcome, Bobby. Thank you. Thank you for your questions. I really do appreciate that. And again, I like to remind all of my customers, please don't be ashamed, or please don't be shy with any of your questions. And this goes for our live viewers too. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I like to I really like to reiterate that no question is a dumb question. These questions are really good. These questions are asked by people more than you think, and your question might be helping someone else right now. So thank you for the questions. So Gina is actually asking a great question. See, I don't know why I can see Gina's comment on my phone, but I can't see Gina's comment on my computer for some reason. So let me pull it up here and see more. So Gina, if it's okay, I'm going to read your comment out loud. Gina says tequila, which is a very sweet black crab. I just said black crab, guys. Next time I need coffee. No, tequila is not your black crab. Tequila is cockatiel, correct, Gina? So Gina might be answering right now, but unfortunately my my chat seems to be lagging. But anyway, Gina wrote, tequila must have done the same thing. She's not bleeding, but she cries at times because it's hurting her. I don't know what to do because I feel bad she's crying. I think the feather is partially coming out, but she hasn't lost it yet. Okay, perfect question, because I get that question all the time too. So Gina's basically asking or saying that it seems like it hurts her. Yes. When feathers are dangling there and you can see a feather dangling off of a parrot like it's about to fall, depending on where the break is, yes, it is uncomfortable for the bird. Now, the higher the break is on the feather, even if it might not be an emergency or a dangerous situation, sometimes it can feel a little sore because it's getting ready. It's like a loose tooth, you know, loose teeth are there. It's not an emergency, but sometimes when it wiggles too much and it's close to our gums, it just feels sore. That's exactly what happens to the feather. When it gets a little closer to the skin, it's just wiggling and it's moving, and You know, it's bumping on things while they're trying to eat. So yes, it gets sore, Gina. And it does suck to see our feathered friend go being uncomfortable in that way, but the feather will fall out. It's like a growing pain. We hate to see it's just like our children, we hate to see our feathered babies go through that pain, but sometimes we have to. And do not pull the feather out. It's just like that tooth. Do not pull that loose tooth out. Do not pull that feather out. Because I've had customers who thought they were helping their bird and they tried to pull that broken feather out, and then they ended up having to go to the vet because they broke the skin, and then it became an emergency where the parrot needed stitches. So do not pull that broken feather out unless you know what you're doing. And I actually, if you guys really want to know, to pull a feather out, you can actually do it at home. I taught a customer how to do it, and it's awesome. She's actually a registered nurse. And so now she, with her macaws and her cockatoos, they pull their feathers out when necessary. Never tell you to do it. She just asked me to teach her, and she does it very well. You take a medical device that looks like a pair of pliers, and I can't even think of the name right now, but basically you can use pliers too. You always want to make sure they're disinfected, and you want to pull the entire feather out by the base at the direction the feather is growing out. And you have to be careful because it has to be a smooth move. You do one good pull and you can actually pull that feather out clean and safe. But I will never recommend anyone to do it at home unless they know what they're doing. I've done it a million times to birds who have actually had breaks in their skin. And as soon as I pull the feather out, I stop the bleeding, I disinfect, I give medication, but I know all of the steps. So if you come messaging me, asking me to tell you how to pull a feather out of the base, I might tell you, but I might tell you too, don't do it at home because you might not have the medication to give, you might not have sutures to sew up the bird. You don't want to make the bird bleed more than it has to. Just take your parrot to a vet if the feather breaks at the skin. So again, that was a good question. I'm sorry for my lengthy responses, but my customers who know me know I always do that. That was a great question, Gina. Again, her question or her comment was that when the feathers break off of her bird's body, it seems like the bird is uncomfortable. And I said, yes, it's like a loose tooth. The bird sometimes will be uncomfortable because it's a little sore, but the feather will fall out and then they'll be fine. Okay, so again, let me try to reload my computer here. My computer was supposed to help me read all the comments, but it's not loading. Let's see. All right, so let me look at my comments on my phone. Aw, thank you, Gina. Gina always makes me feel good. She's such a sweet woman. I love it. Dennis always says it in Spanish. Me tira flores. Gina me tira flores. You like throw roses at me, Gina. and I catch them. And I catch them. I love you. I love you guys. Yes, she was your cockatiel. Wasn't she your first or second cockatiel, if I remember correctly, Gina? I don't remember. Gina ended up getting a bunch of babies, and then her babies have babies. Right. So again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Let me go to my next question. Oh, be careful. This guy's biting my keyboard here. Oh, I just noticed on my screen I got my poopy mouse there. All right, so my next question is a simple one. My next question was from Caitlin. Caitlin purchased a macaw for me about 7 years ago, and I love hearing when my customers still have their babies. Thank you so much for loving on them, and I'm so happy you guys love your babies. Okay, so I raised her baby macaw. His name is Gino. Funny enough. So Gino, I raised him and I weaned him off on pellets. That was at her request. So the vet now told her after about 7 years that he recommends switching the bird to a seed and a fruit diet. But now Gino is not eating his fruits, and she wants to know how she can get Gino to eat his fruits. I'll be really honest with you. When you don't wean a bird off of fruits when they're babies, it's very hard to get them to eat fruits or vegetables at an adult. And that's just 100% honesty. Anyone who tells you any different, they're lying. Anyone who's going to tell you, let me give you a strategy to get them to eat fruits and vegetables, they're lying. Because a bird 98% of the time needs to be exposed to the food that you want them to eat while they're hand feeding and as a baby, if you want them to eat that for the rest of their life. The one way to get a bird to eat new food, especially when he wasn't exposed to it as a baby, a lot of people don't like to do. And that's just the honest truth. And that is to really just put the one food in there, take away the pellet. Obviously, Gino likes the pellet. And put the food that you want him to eat, in your case, the fruits and vegetables, until he eats it. So yes, what I'm saying is that the method is starvation. The bird will not starve himself. Not starve himself. Now, I'm saying that with caution because just as humans, we always have the one or two oddballs, even the human-wise, that will go to the extremes and really harm themselves. But 99% of the time, a bird will not starve himself. Now, again, I'm only telling you some of the few methods to get an old bird to eat food that he's never eaten before. But I will say, do it with caution. When I say a bird will not starve himself, it's because if you put another food in a cage for the bird to eat, 99% of the time, because they, if survival mode, they will eat the new food. But we can't assume the bird will know that a fruit and vegetable is a food. So we need to remember that. One thing I always want to remind customers and clients is these parrots are hand raised. Just as other animals are domesticated, these parrots are domesticated. Many times, especially when they're hand raised right, because I have my methods to really domesticate a parrot, especially when I'm raising them for as an emotional support parrot. They need to be so domesticated that they lose their wild instincts. I cannot have an emotional support parrot have wild instincts and biting my poor customer who's having an anxiety because, oh, sorry, I just hit Sky by accident. But I don't need my parrots biting at my anxious customers who are having, an episode because their wild instincts are telling them that a human's shaking at them and now they're scared. So when we raise and train these parrots, especially when we do it right, they, again, I'm using my percentage, 99% of the time they lose their wild instincts. So that means, as dumb as it may sound, if we take away the pellet, the only source of food that they've ever known, and the only thing that we've ever taught them how to eat, and we put a fruit and vegetable there, even if the fruit is ripe, and even if the fruit is juicy, and even if the fruit is like the best fruit of the season, the parrot might not know it's a food. It's that simple, and it's that easy. So we can't always assume that a parrot knows. Never assume that a parrot knows. They're super smart, but we have to remember they're domesticated. So my advice for switching a bird from a food that they have always known as food to a food that they've never eaten before, is usually just leaving the new food in there until they eat it. But again, I say it with caution because when they might not know the new food is a food. Now, a slower way to go is, again, just like any other animal, a cat or a dog, put the new food next to the old food. And eventually, if the bird gets curious enough, the bird will start eating the new food. That's not always a guarantee, especially with older birds. I swear to you, parrots are like humans. The older they get, the more stubborn they get. So you got a 7-8-year-old macaw who's only eaten pellets all of his life, and all of a sudden you're like, and I know in macaw world that's still fairly young, but with my experience, by 7 or 8, they're usually pretty good stuck in their ways. But usually then they're pretty stubborn at wanting to try new food. So then that goes back to the argument that vets, you know, some vets like pellets more than seed, some vets like seed more than pellets, you know, but that's a discussion for another day, which one's better, pellet or seed. But that's usually the best thing to do. Again, changing a parrot from the food that they've always eaten to another food is a little bit hard. And just a tip, when you do introduce them to a new food, make sure you put the new food in their cage in the same spot at the same time every day. Parrots know routines. Parrots pick up on new routines, and they're really savvy with that. And so eventually when they see you putting something in a cup in the same spot at the same time every day, that will trigger a curiosity. Like, why is this changing? Why is there a routine? Why is their hand coming in? And even though they might not go down to the cup to necessarily eat, you're still triggering their curiosity. And once they get close enough, their senses might finally tell them this is something edible, and they might taste it. So that is a tip for you. Hi, Dilma. Oh, I have a question. Okay, yes. I was just, okay, perfect. Dilma, yes, I actually did raise Sky from when she was a baby. She's actually a little grouchy right now. She's molting. I think I showed everyone her pin feathers towards the beginning of the video, and when birds are molting, they're getting new feathers in, so their skin's a little sensitive. So she is a little grouchy, but thank you for saying she's well-mannered. Actually, I raised Sky for a customer, some really nice customers of mine, and I swear these years have been mushy, especially with COVID happening and everything. I want to say about 3 years ago, I actually had a blue and gold macaw. She was a store macaw, but she was my macaw, and it was Bam Bam. And Bam Bam unfortunately passed away. And at the time, my customers, I think, were going through maybe a life transition, or something was happening that they felt bad that they couldn't give Sky the attention that she needed. And Sky came back to me. Sky came back to me, and I'm super grateful for my customers for giving me the chance to have Sky back. So yeah, I did raise her as a baby, and she can be a really good girl. Now the thing with macaws though is that they usually bond, they really do, to one person very strongly. And if anyone ever tells you that they can be a multiple person bird, they're very incorrect. They're just trying to sell you a bird. So Sky can be very well-mannered with me, and the only way I can assure that she'll be well-mannered with someone else is if I'm really standing next to that person and dictating to her that she needs to be nice to the new person. But thank you. All right, guys, it is 10 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. This hour went by super fast. Thank you for joining us again. in the end, we started our YouTube. Again, I think I told everyone, you know, we were transitioning our store from South Elgin to Lake County, and then the pandemic happened, and so life took a turn. But life took a turn definitely for the best. And what we're doing now is we're actually I'm assisting Dennis with his sanctuary project. We're looking for land right now, and as soon as we find our piece of land, we are going to start our sanctuary project to bring neglected or abandoned parrots into our farm, and to help them have a better life and a lasting home, so that they're not bouncing around from place to place. So feel free to subscribe to our YouTube. It's on my Facebook. Feel free to look us up on our website. I'm going to update our website soon, and please follow our adventure. It's really exciting for us to be doing this, and click and like our YouTube. That always helps. The subscribers help. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for everything. Thank you for supporting us, and stay tuned, because we're going to do this every week, every Saturday at 9. And by next week, hopefully I'll have my coffee and my hair and my makeup not so sleepy. So keep it birdie. Thank you again, and I will see you next week. Take care, guys. Love you. Bye.